so much for having me.
So you've got Guts, and I think that makes a lot of sense with your documentary that you have Blood and Guts Exposing Endo. Why did you decide to do the documentary?
As a video producer, I always had like a camera on me anyway. I was always sort of filming things. And when my body started to really experience incredible symptoms and was sort of degrading over time, and doctors weren't listening to me, I felt like, number one, the camera was my friend, as it could sort of help me kind of parse out what was happening. And also I was so hopeful that this pain I'd been experiencing for so many years actually had an answer, and that I could like share that with whomever else was going through what I was experiencing. And I wanted my journey, it was so painful for so long. Mm-hmm. I wanted it to at least be used to help other people.
How many years did it take for you to get diagnosed?
I most likely have had this since birth, since my mom had it, and I did not get a diagnosis until I was 37 years old. And that was not for lack of advocating for myself with passion, with tears in my eyes to doctors saying I have crippling pain. It wasn't until I had a hard time conceiving a child that I could see people started to take my pain more seriously. And that felt really wrong to me. That felt really wrong.
It's interesting you said that. I also have endo and infertility, but I first had really severe pain, and then they did an egg reserve test and found that I was infertile. I wasn't planning. It was kind of different scenario than yours. But what I found while I was pregnant, I remember calling because I thought I had a UTI, and the doctor got back to me within 10 minutes and told me I needed to come right in, and he was going to move his entire schedule, and they were going to put me on this medicine to make sure everything was okay. And it was like I could have sneezed the wrong direction and I got attention. But here I was, a year before that in agony at an ER being like, hormonal imbalance, maybe a flu, bye-bye.
Yes.
It was crazy.
It's crazy that you as a woman who has a family and people who care about us, and just being a human being who is alive with needs, we can be in situations where it feels like we're going to die from pain. Right. And be dismissed, ignored, not listened to. But the second you want to have a child or you are pregnant, it really shows the stark contrast of who believes women, who listens to women, and the value of a woman's life and quality of life.
Yeah, it was definitely very eye-opening in a very disappointing way for me. Yeah. But without going too much on a tangent about just the inequities of being female or born with the uterus, when you decided to turn the cameras on and document this, were you surprised by what you learned about yourself, about the reaction others had to endo?
Yes, I've been shocked. First of all, as I said, the intent was to help other people. And I was really shocked by how much self-compassion it cultivated within myself. It helped me, even just seeing my own journey, accept, understand, and as I said, just really have self-love on another level, which is really important when you're going through a chronic illness, because you're physically enduring so much pain, confusion. It changes the way the brain responds to things. So you're in this sort of parasympathetic overdrive, and it's important to take time to really slow down and understand what's happening and be able to check in with yourself and offer that sort of compassion to your own self. So I was really surprised by how healing it was for me when my intent was to help other people. And then hearing the response from other people, clearly I spoke my story and it aligns with millions of other people, and we can really relate to each other. There's so many people who've gone through exactly what you and I have. And when you tap into that community, it's incredibly validating. It answers a lot of questions. And since a lot of the medical information is not readily available, to be able to have that dialogue with other patients and with experts is so enriching, and we can just all learn so much from it.
Was there anything you learned while you were filming about endo that you didn't know? And I'm sure that's kind of a loaded question. There's probably a lot because I feel like I learn on a weekly basis something new.
Yes, I interviewed two of the most amazing experts. I mean, everyone in the film are incredible experts, but two of the most amazing endometriosis excision surgeons, Dr. Iris Orbach and Dr. Gabby Moad. And so while editing their footage and listening to the facts over and over again, it was really, really helpful to educate myself as it's such a complex illness.
Hmm.
And these two doctors dedicate their lives to learning everything that they can about it. So there was a lot of just medical information that was really helpful. And speaking to Kyla Kanzader,
Mhm.
I learned so much about what the experience is for a woman of color, for a Black woman. I certainly was aware of that, but not as personally as hearing from such an incredible warrior who faced obstacles that I, I am not familiar with and I have not experienced. I also learned a lot about how this illness is not gendered, and there are so many people born with a uterus who identify as male, non binary, and there are additional factors that these individuals have to face that I don't as well. So it really opened my eyes to so many different types of pain and seeing how much more advocacy we really need.
Yeah, and we really do need the advocacy because I think the thing that is very frustrating and something I didn't even know at the beginning of my diagnosis and finally getting the validation, I thought, okay, I always correlated endometriosis and debilitating pain. I never knew that it could actually cause organs to shut down and fail. And to me, that has been the scariest, most underrated thing about endo. And the fact we don't talk about it more is really troubling. And when people put it in a benign category, I think that the language and the vocabulary that's used with endo is really dangerous to the people that have it because it minimizes the severity of the disease.
100%. Throughout the film, I learned that it acts like cancer and can invade organs and fuse organs together. And you get that sort of workup after your own surgery, and you're just doing your best to get by. And as I said, I had two of the most amazing doctors perform my surgeries. But when you're listening to it and seeing it, and you hear that information in a more sort of just clinical way, it really opens your eyes up to how incredibly damaging and the long-term damage that this illness does. It can eat away. I mean, it just ate my appendix. You know what I mean? It can just literally eat away at your organs. And luckily, we can function without our appendix. It certainly has a role, but there are other organs that are vital. It can grow anywhere, not just in the pelvic region. And I also learned, which is really interesting, and I'm dealing with some of the after effects of this now, how much chronic pain really changes the brain and can cause long-term effects of things like dysautonomia, dizziness, vertigo. There's so many things that a lot of people have to live with, lupus, just a lot of other companion illnesses that come along with not being treated for this pain. So I'm still learning. I am, not a doctor, but every week I think we're probably learning something that blows our mind and makes us angry, as it should, because this is being treated like it's just some cute little bad period. And that is so wildly inaccurate. And our bodies have been paying the price for that for years.
Right, right. And right now, too, we have very limited treatment options. So, and also, we talk about excision as though it's readily available to the average person. It is not readily available. Even the average person who might be able to get it still has to pay out of pocket because insurance doesn't code it the right way so that it's covered by insurance, even if you're lucky enough to have insurance. So what the treatment options are so few and so expensive. And they also come with so many terrible side effects that my biggest anger inducer is what next? What's on the horizon? I know there's some brilliant researchers really fighting for us, but it's not okay to have surgery after surgery after surgery that also comes with huge amounts of complication, but also scar tissue complications after. I mean, none of these things really cure it. It's an inflammatory disease. So there's still other issues than just the lesions themselves or just the fused adhesions and things along those lines. It just feels like a never ending cycle. And when you think about it that way, the psychological impact and the emotional toll it takes on someone with endo, it's like you can't see the forest through the trees because you're just so much in the thick of it.
Yeah. It's like a full-time job to not only manage the illness and the symptoms, but the doctor's appointments, and then the multidisciplinary approach to being able to create a lifestyle that supports our body, that decreases stress, that manages to find a way to have, movement in our daily lives while also not being burnt out. It is like a full-time job, and we really need support with that. And we need tools that not only educate us and more doctors, but also friends and family. I'm sure you're hearing all the time from people whose partners don't understand. We just did an event the other night where we were talking to teens, which was amazing, because to be able to give this education to younger people is so empowering. And a young woman said, "No one in my whole life has ever believed me." So from the very beginning, which is just being believed, the most simple, easy step, to the medical care and everything in between, we're really lacking as a medical community, as a society, just as a country, to even support women and non-binary and trans people. Like we are really failing. So I really appreciate any and all of us who can speak to this and bring that awareness to patients who need to get this information because they're in a place of crisis.
And also society, you see it on Instagram all the time. Hustle hard, keep the hustle, work through the pain. Pain is gain. Someone with a chronic illness who already feels like they can't keep up, and then you add all this extra pressure, it makes you feel lesser than. And I think we have to take a step back and go, you know what? It's okay to take the minute. It's okay to rest your body, because when I go in full gear, when I'm doing my work and I'm busy in my life and I push through the pain and I push too hard and I don't sleep and I don't eat right, I pay for it. And I go, oh my gosh, I have endometriosis. I keep forgetting I have a chronic illness. I have to treat my body more delicately. And that's something I am trying to learn, because my body isn't always healthy. I want to pretend it is, but it's not. And I think that we need to stop putting so much pressure on ourselves to keep pushing through.
Yes, that's so relatable. And I often think, I don't know whether it's my personality or family or just living in New York City, but I think I can really deeply relate to that. And I think so many people can, is that like, it's all about the hustle and you just got to push yourself. But also I think what doubles down on that is the gaslighting that doctors do to us, whether it's knowing or unknowing. A lot mean really well, but they're not as informed about endo as they should be or could be. So when they're telling us what we're experiencing isn't actually happening, no, it's just a bad period. That's just part of being a lady. No, that also kind of convinces us to not listen to our bodies. It sort of tells us, no, if you do feel that pain, you got to push yourself. This isn't really happening. It can cause a lot of self-doubt, so that we have a hard time even listening to that voice inside us saying, hey, let's slow down. Let's make sure we schedule some rest today. Let's make sure we put in some self-care this week. And self-care doesn't necessarily mean like a face mask. It can mean literally saying no to plans. That's totally cool. Resting when we need to, doing whatever we need to do to really support our body the way we would want to support a friend or family member.
Yes, I think that's a good way to look at it too, because sometimes the way we treat ourselves is not as nice as we would treat a family member or a friend or a colleague. So
Absolutely.
if you saw someone treating you the way you were, or treating you, I guess yourself actually, hold on, let me rephrase that. If you saw someone treating someone the way you were treating yourself, you might step back and say, you need a reminder.
Absolutely. That was honestly in my early days of being diagnosed. One of my check-ins is my husband would say, what would you tell your best friend to do? Because sometimes I'd tell myself to push through something and I would have much more compassion and understanding for my best friend. So just honestly learning how to readjust and look at our own self as a friend, because there are times where we're our only advocate. So we really need to do that. Otherwise, kind of no one's looking out for us. So that's a really important lesson that I've learned from this journey with endo. There's a lot I'm honestly grateful for, because it has really taught me how to be my own friend, how to look out for myself, how to have more compassion. I never question when a woman is telling me about pain she's experiencing. Not that I would have questioned it before, but I now feel fiercely loyal to advocating and believing. That's just such an important thing to do. So that also applies to ourselves, like believe myself. What little voice is speaking up and saying I need today, I'm going to listen to that, because endo has taught me I need to,
Where can people watch your doc?
endomission.org. You can watch my documentary short film, and there are a lot of resources on there that are safe, vetted resources. So if somebody needs to see what book they can read, what CBD oil is good to help, it's a really great place to find community and be able to find healthcare that is safe and been vetted by endo patients like you and I who know, and we've paid the price and we've done the research. So it's a great place to be able to check out the film and connect with community.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for your amazing work shining a light on this and so many issues affecting women and other people who need us to advocate for them.
Thank you for your work.